It's time for the Rundown with Rob Sanders.
Well, we're waiting.
Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Jam-packed show planned for you as always. We're going to head out to the phones and welcome in from the ACC Digital Network. I got to learn how to speak English better if I'm going to be on the radio. Wes Bryant joins us. Wes, what's going on, my friend?
What's going on, man? I guess this is our kicking off of the new season, I guess we could say.
You know, we are, tomorrow is July 1st. So that's kind of like the start of what Coach Spurrier used to call talking season. And that's kind of where we are, man. We're at the talking season point, and I thought it'd be great to bring you on and talk a little bit about that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no doubt, man. I'm really, it's funny, man. I don't think I've ever had the itch for football season to come. I won't say ever, but I'm super excited for the season. I guess I don't know if it's the fans coming back or what, but I'm ready.
All right. Well, let's start with some talking season stuff here. What I mean by that is that, you know, going back to your days at Wake Forest, what did July consist of as far as being a player?
Wow. Well, July brought forth a little bit of depression because you knew the training camp was on the horizon. You knew it was your last bit of, I guess you could say, real free time before, I guess the calm before the storm, you could say. And you knew the training camp was right on the horizon, which nobody, I don't care what player it is looking forward to that. But as you said, as far as the fans are concerned, everybody's excited. Like you spoke about, the talking season is about to begin. You're going to start getting those first quotes and really start to get a picture of how the season will begin at least.
Yeah, but also getting into shape too, right? I mean, a lot of it comes down to that, and that's kind of a big thing. And for offensive linemen, I mean, was it at a point where some of you may have to gain weight, cut weight? I mean, there's just so many things on the physical front as well, right?
Yeah, it depends, and it depends on your body structure. I mean, a lineman, like I said, most of the time, especially if you went to 2 summer sessions, or a lot of guys are coming into the second summer session, which is where you're going to really start to kind of get yourself in shape from a conditioning standpoint, because you're not going to get into football shape until you get out there and start banging around and really, you know, get banged and bruised a little bit. But as far as myself is concerned, I was always a lineman that had to kind of build and keep my weight on. So I never had that issue. You do have some guys, like my buddy, Maurice Mitchell, that I played at the University of Florida with. And, you know, he was a guy, he went about 6'8", about 365, 370 pounds. So a guy like that, when they have breaks or when they come in, they are going to check their weight. They are going to say, hey, you're here. We want you to be here, and may put you on a regimen to do that. So, yeah, for some of the really big guys on the team, and even for the skill guys too, because, hey, you know, you might have a running back and they want you to play, you might be a bigger back and they want you to play a 220 or something like that. You may come in 235, 240 or something. So it just depends on the player, your body type, and how you are. I never really had to worry about that too much, but I did have teammates that was a concern.
Give us a good training camp story, because we're on the horizon of that as well. I mean, there's got to be some funny stuff that happened in training camp.
Oh, man. I mean, let's see. I think I would probably go with things. Oh, okay, man. I got so many, you wouldn't even have time for it. But one thing is the things that you do to get through it. I just remember we did not call the days of the week by the days of the week. We called them by numbers. So when we would ask each other which day it was, we'd say day 10, day 11, day 12, and so on and so forth. Some mornings you might not brush your teeth, you know? It might be one of those type of days. You just get up and you just say, I'm going to go to practice. I mean, we would get up especially by the middle of training camp. And I remember one season, it was 4 of us that lived in the dorm together. We had one like suite, if you will. And I mean, we would get up in the morning and we would congregate in the front and wait for our teammates who had the car. And we would not say one word to each other until after breakfast. We just didn't talk. But as far as a good, funny story for you, Coach Grove, you know, he really grounded us as far as just hitting and running, and you know, he believed in that stuff, and it did pay off when we got into hot games at the beginning of the season, like when we played Clemson in Death Valley. We kind of wore that as a badge of honor because we were so well conditioned. But I never forget that we had a Saturday practice, and we thought that we were going to get Sunday off, and this was probably one of the worst training camps I had. We went 2.5 weeks, no breaks. Each practice was the same, whether we had helmets and shoulder pads or full pads. They were just as physical. And I remember everybody got excited. We said, hey, man, we're gonna go ahead and just really kill it today because we got tomorrow off, and we're just going to do our thing. And so when Coach Grove got us up at the end of the practice, you know, he started telling us the stuff that he always would: call your mom, go to church, and all that type of stuff, and giving us a little reminders. And then he proceeded to say, then you're going to come down here at about 4 o'clock and get taped up and, you know, get ready for practice. And you could hear a pin drop. And with some of my closer teammates, we had great nonverbal communication. And I remember my buddy, Damon McWhite, that was a fullback. He was kind of across the way from me. And we just found each other, and we just we were some ways away from each other in the team huddle. And we just kind of looked at each other like, did he just say what we thought he said? Did he say that we're going to practice tomorrow after all these tough practices that we've had, man? So it was tough. But, yeah, training camp has a lot of stories, and you do everything you can to get through it.
Well, as training camp is on the horizon here, let's talk a little bit about some teams from the ACC. You know, Clemson's kind of the standard, and that's just, you know, they're the top ranked team as far as the preseason polls go. But after Clemson, what is there a huge drop? And then who would be in your mind if you had to fill out your preseason ballot today? Who would you have at number 2?
Well, I won't say there's a huge drop because when you look at Clemson right now, yes, they do have a ton of guys coming back, and we know about the recruiting classes, and we know about the ratings of those groups. But at the end of the day, those guys have to prove themselves. We've seen many of programs where guys come in with all this billing and all these grades and stars, and they don't perform. Or one thing, which I don't think Clemson will fall victim to, but it does happen. We read about this with Florida State. We've seen it with Alabama, where guys come in and the guys who came before them set the standard, and then they think because they can show up with that logo on their helmet that everybody's going to fall down for them. So the thing I'm interested with Clemson is the DJ Uiagalelei. Yes, we did see flashes of his talent last year, but this time he's going to have a full season, which I think he's going to be spectacular, but we've yet to see that. And also, people are really kind of glossing over losing a back like Travis Etienne, who's one of the greatest college football running backs of all time, not just ACC. In my opinion, he's the ACC's greatest running back. And you're replacing him with Lindsey Dixon, who, in my opinion, hasn't looked as explosive and as just phenomenal as he did in his earlier seasons. And then you got to replace some guys on that offensive line. And we know Clemson didn't run the ball how they wanted to last year, and that was one of the reasons Etienne had so many catches out of the backfield. They had some games. He didn't have a ton of 100-yard games like we expected.
Right.
So I say all that to say, I don't know that the gap is that wide, but it's going to be some teams that are going to have to step up and prove that they can compete. When you look at the Miami Hurricanes and you look at what they're building down there, the King and the crew, they're getting some skill talent. We talk about Mike Harley. You know, defensively, they did lose some guys as well. So we have a lot of teams that lost some guys, but they got some key guys back when you talk about like a Bubba Bolden, guys like that to provide that leadership. And then when you talk the North Carolina Tar Heels, that's going to be the team that everybody's going to be talking about because, oh, yeah, they have the best quarterback in the conference, Sam Howell, who's looking to be a top 3 selection in the NFL draft. But they, again, have to replace a lot of weapons. You get Bo Corrales back out there on the edge, but Cosley Brown, can he replace his brother and give them what his brother did, De'Ami, that's moved on to the Washington Redskins? Josh Downs and the crew has moved back in. And, you also lost what was the best backfield in the country in Javonte Williams and Michael Carter. So you have to replace that. You have to replace some guys on the offensive line. And, your defense struggled a lot last year. And that's with Chaz Surratt and some of those guys that we saw get drafted or that will be moving on to the NFL. So they have to fix that. So there are a lot of teams with some holes to fill, including the Clemson Tigers, except defensively, they get everybody back. But offensively, they've got some holes to fill, and Justin Ross is coming back after a year off. But they have a lot of guys at Clemson offensively that have to prove it. So that's going to make for some interesting games. But if I had to choose a second team right now, I'm going to go with Miami. And we'll see if North Carolina, with expectations this season, can step up and have a similar year to what they had and not drop some of those games that they should have won.
You mentioned teams having to replace some folks. Coach Dave Clawson said, I think it was in March, that the transfer portal was the trash portal, I think was the word that he put out there.
Wow.
I'm sure you following Wake Forest, you remember that, but the big thing with that statement is, do you think there's a big-time transfer that's heading into the conference, like a De'Aaron King from last year who came in and kind of set the world on fire a little bit? Is there someone that's coming into the league that could really light it up this season?
Oh, for sure. You got Mackenzie Milton down there in Tallahassee, Florida, that's going to play for the Florida State Seminoles. We know what he did for Central Florida. He was one of college football's most productive quarterbacks.
Right, but to be fair, that's Central Florida. That's not Florida State. I mean, do you think that he'll be able to make the jump to playing for a Power 5 team and put up the numbers there coming off the injury he had at Central Florida?
Yeah, I think so, because now I'm not saying he's going to have the same type of production, because we need to see him bounce back from that injury. But from what you've seen in the spring, what you've heard, he did a good job. He's still going to have to compete with Jordan Travis and the crew down there for that job. But Central Florida, I think they're, they may not be quite Power 5, but it's still really good competition there. Lots of NFL guys, and we know what Central Florida stood for over the last 4 or 5 seasons, I would say. So, Mackenzie Milton's the guy that's got the most to prove out of the incoming transfers, because we know Florida State's history, and everybody wants to anoint them as the team that they can get back to yesteryear because of the logo on their helmet. So he's going to be the guy that if Florida State's going to do that, I think it's going to rest with him, because Jordan Travis, limited as a passer. We haven't seen, they got the Purdy kid that's come in, the freshman, that they like as well. But I think it's going to be Milton, because with his pedigree, his production, you can bank on Coach Mike Norvell and that staff hoping that he can come in and at least give them 75, 80% of what he was at Central Florida. And as I said, from what you saw from him in the spring game, he looks to be getting back to that. Do I have a lot of faith in Florida State? I don't. But if you want to point to a freshman a transfer that's going to come in with a lot to prove, as far as restoring a program or being a savior, so to speak, and I use that term loosely, it's Mackenzie Milton.
Going to be some interesting stuff there with Florida State. Are there some coaches that, in your opinion, are kind of looking around thinking, you know what, we've got to have a pretty good season here? I don't want to use the term hot seat, but there are. You can look at some guys like Fuente at Virginia Tech, and of course Coach Babers up at Syracuse. But are those the kind of are those coaches sitting there thinking, you know what, we really need to have a pretty good season?
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I think, as I say, you start at the top of that list with Justin Fuente. We know what a proud program that Virginia Tech is. He's come close. He's flirted with being out of there. A lot of people thought this season might be his last, this past season. So he's definitely got a lot to prove. As you said, Dino Babers as well. A lot of people felt he should have taken the leap out of there once Syracuse had that great season they had a couple of years back. But he stayed, and he's going to look to resurrect that type of season and resurrect that faith in the Syracuse fan base. And then I think if you want to look at somebody else too, early on, I think you have to look at Coach Satterfield at Louisville, because this is the guy that we know, what he did coming in, and we know what he did that first season. And he instilled a lot of hope in that Louisville fan base, and then things kind of went awry. We know that he was flirting with other jobs, so fans are wondering if he is true to the Louisville brand, if he really truly wants to be there. So I think this season Louisville needs to come out. They've got plenty of guys back that they can make some noise, and I think that this is the guy who fans, if they're not able to come out and really be a player in the ACC, especially when you look down the league and like you said, Clemson and then kind of everybody else, if they can't make some noise and be a contender to at least, try to get to a good bowl game, win 8 or 9 games, I think that fan base is going to be looking at Coach Satterfield pretty sideways. And that could be a situation where we could see an early departure.
Well, and I hate to bring this name up because I have a ton of respect for him, but you got to look at Duke with Coach Cutcliffe. Mm-hmm. Not exactly the biggest, the best ACC record over the past 5 seasons. Could he be in what is almost like your goodbye tour this season?
Yeah, I would say I'm not going to guarantee that, but this is a coach who, like I said, with his tenure, I don't know that I would see Duke fire him, but I think it would be a situation that if it doesn't work out this year, maybe he just says, hey, this locker room needs a new voice, and maybe I just need to step aside and kind of a mutual agreement type of thing. I think with what he's done for this program up until this point, I think he kind of, owe him that type of respect, but I could see it going that way. But yes, he was going to be the coach besides Satterfield. I was going to say that Duke fans, now listen, it is Duke. I mean, it's not like they're sitting there expecting to get to the college football playoffs. But when you make a few bowl games in a row, the fans are starting to say, hey, especially when you take the dips that they've taken, fans are saying, hey, what's going on? And especially with these new age coaches, a lot of young coaches coming in, people are starting to look at Coach Cutcliffe, who's one of my favorite guys, but they're looking at him and saying, hey, maybe is it time for him to step away and maybe we get somebody else in here.
It could be interesting because after this season, Coach K is going to retire and Coach Cutcliffe may decide, hey, I want to move on too. You could have, in theory, 2 brand new coaches up there when you and I talk next season as we get ready for the 2022 season. So interesting stuff there with Duke. All right, I got to get your opinion on the NBA before I get you out of here. Okay. America's team, the Phoenix Suns, are looking to close out the Clippers tonight. Paul George is an absolute beast, though, and he is really carrying that Clipper squad right now.
Yeah, and I think the Suns, like I said, Chris Paul, Wake Forest alum, but they better get it done tonight because I'm a big believer in intangibles and psychology of sport. And in the NBA, I just think when you blow a 3-1 lead, if that team that was down 3-1 forces it to Game 7, you're toast. I mean, as much as I love Steph Curry, I tried to deny the year that LeBron and the crew came back on them, but I knew when they forced it to a Game 7, at that point, mentally, the team that had the lead, you're fried. And so the Suns have to get it done tonight. I hope for Chris Paul's sake that they do. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure.
Let's not mock my Suns too much now. Let's talk about the last night going into that game with the Hawks. No Trae Young, absolutely no problem. They blew the Bucks the hell out. Mm-hmm. I'm watching and I'm like, this looks like it's like an ulterior universe there. Lou Williams had a big game, and to me, it's almost like the Hawks are a team of destiny right now.
It's looking that way, especially with Giannis suffering that injury. We'll see what they come out and say. But the NBA playoffs as a whole, I mean, some of the games most nights, they're unwatchable. I just don't understand how guys get paid the money they do and call themselves professionals, and you come out and lose by 30, 40. It's ridiculous.
Air balls from the free throw line are if you shoot an air ball and I'm your coach, you're going to sit on the bench the rest of the game. Yeah. That's terrible.
I'm trying to give these games a chance, and I watch, and it's like the game now, and I hate to be sounding like the guy, I just turned 38, but I mean, good Lord, it's like whichever team can come out and get hot from 3, more than likely that team's going to blow out the other team because you're going to see these 18-0 runs, 21-0 runs, 24-3 runs, and stuff like that. And then the game gets to a blowout that's unwatchable. So, the playoffs to me, they've been very up and down. I've been disinterested, and I'm kind of an elite, elitist when it comes to sports, Big Rob, because, no Nets, no LeBron. I like to see LeBron lose at the highest stage. That's the type of LeBron James hater I am. I want to see him get to the finals or get to the conference finals and lose. But him losing in the first round took a little juice out of the playoffs, and then the Nets, who are my championship pick, them going down in flames the way they did. So it's just a little tough right now, Rob. Just a little bit.
Wes Bryant from the ACC Network joins us. Of course, you can find him on Twitter at Wes Got Range, right?
Yes, sir. Wes Got Range. You catch me on Instagram, Wes Got Range 704. Check us out, ACC Digital Network on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out, man.
All right, man. Hey, I appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to talking to you this football season, man.
For sure, Robin. The sneakers are getting out of control, man.
I wanted to talk about sneakers, but if we did that, we'd be here all damn day. So.
Yeah, next time.
Next time, brother. Thanks so much, man.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right, Wes Bryant from the ACC Digital Network joining us here on the Rundown. Interesting stuff there. He likes Miami as the second best team from the ACC ahead of North Carolina. Interesting there. We'll take calls on that, 803-978-1832. When we come back, you're listening to The Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Jerome, you're over there trying to ruin my interview. The comrade up there, Mike Dobreski, how's Clemson going to score against Georgia? The comrade needs to worry about his own teams. Ask the comrade about any of his teams, and he needs to worry about them. I mean, the Red Sox are cheaters. Let's see here. What else can we go with? The Gamecock football team's not really good. I don't think he supports any team that's really, really good. Just saying. Talk about his Knicks. How'd that work out for them? Oof. Funny, right? Mike, I am going to talk about the Mike texted me earlier about, I'm not going to read the poem that you sent us, but the June recruiting scorecard. That's pretty funny. The Georgia fans aren't going to be too happy about that. Is Giannis done for the year? Wow. Did they come out with that? That Giannis is done for the year? I haven't seen that. You got to be joking. Uh-oh. The Knicks have been building since Ewing retired. I got more rat poison for you, as Jerome says. This is actually kind of funny. You'll appreciate this, Mike. Hold on one second. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Jerome said, "I'm tired." He said earlier in the chat room he was done with the heard enough rat poison. Well, I think that's a reference to what I'm going to talk about now with the South Carolina recruiting. According to the 247 Sports Composite, the Gamecocks have jumped from 27th to 22nd in recruiting. Mere 0.13 points behind Clemson at 21 right now, as the Gamecocks are 22 in the country right now in recruiting, according to the 247 Sports Composite. Now, we can talk a lot about what Shane Beamer is doing, and I think he's doing a great job on that front today. Landon Sampson, a wide receiver, 6'1", 180, three-star prospect out of Texas, committed to the Gamecocks. Let's see here. apparently the crystal ball predictions from a lot of these guys that sit around and think that they can tell you about what a 17-year-old is going to do, all of them had him going to Nebraska, and he says, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go play for Shane Beamer at South Carolina as he commits to the Gamecocks. Other teams that were in the mix include Louisiana, Memphis, Nevada, and North Texas. All of those wanting the services of the young man from – where is he from? Oh, yeah, he's from Southlake, Texas. 6'1", 180 pounds. He will head to South Carolina. With that, South Carolina has – what is it? It's they have 2 4-star recruits and 9 3-star recruits. 161.61 is their total composite score. Clemson's at 7 4-star recruits, 1 3-star recruit, and they're at 161.74, which is just above there. So Gamecocks 11 commitments, Clemson with 8. Look, you have to look at it from this perspective. With the absolute disaster mess that Will Muschamp left the program with, I think one of the worst hires in the history of Gamecock football, by far, with the way that he left the program and just kind of left it with not much there, especially on the offensive side of the ball. This is a big deal for South Carolina, and the way that they're able to bounce back with this will be the first recruiting class that Shane Beamer was judged on. The first one, not so much because he didn't have much time to recruit, but with this one, it'll be his first true class. If they finish inside the top 20, they've done a heck of a job. Absolute heck of a job over there with South Carolina. Currently, they're ahead of Florida. Mizzou's at 26, Virginia Tech's at 27, NC State's at 29, North Carolina's at 32. Now, I know it's not even July 1st yet, but still very, very impressive stuff there for the Gamecocks as they're currently 22nd in the recruiting rankings. All right, so we'll talk about that a little more when we come back. Also, the stuff that Wes said about Miami. I don't know if they're the second best team in the ACC or not. We'll have to see how that rolls out. We'll talk about that and more in just a moment when we come back on the rundown. Don't forget, Lawton Swan's up after I'm out of here. I'm off tomorrow and Friday as well as Monday. But we'll still be keeping it up on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. You can check us out there. All kinds of good stuff will be up on the blog page as well. More of the rundown when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yeah, I'm kind of stunned with the stuff with South Carolina as high as they are. I didn't think he would come in and do that well that quickly. Someone just sent me a text. The Gamecocks finally got a bag man. That's great. The Knicks the Knicks don't need Isaiah Thomas back. The Knicks need to fire their owner. Their owner is a douche. They need to fire that guy quickly. By the way, I didn't know this. Arkansas is at 20. Kentucky is at 16. What? Rutgers. Anybody want to take a guess where? We'll talk about that when we come back. That's funny. What a mess. Mess. Wow. You look at the top of the recruiting rankings, and there's a lot of guys there that are a lot of teams there. You're like, huh? Some of these teams is like, what? How's that working out? Oh. Y'all got big plans for the 4th over there? Anybody? Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. Jerome mentioned rat poison earlier. Yeah, I talked about the Gamecocks being 22 right now in recruiting, just behind Clemson. When you look at some of the other teams that are ranked ahead of everyone, kind of makes you think for a little bit. I can buy Notre Dame at 2, Ohio State at 1. Florida State right now is ranked 3rd in the recruiting rankings. You can buy LSU at 4, Georgia at 5, Texas at 6, Texas A&M at 7, Penn State at 8. Number 9, though, and that's where these recruiting rankings are going to balance out, Boston College. The reason they're at number 9 is because they have 18 commits. 16 of them are 4-star prospects, or 3-star prospects, 4, and then 2 4-star guys. Followed by Rutgers at number 10. Man, Greg Schiano, man, they were going to hire him at Tennessee. He would have done a better job hiding those McDonald's bags. I guarantee you that. They didn't want anything to do with Greg Schiano. They were talking about, I can't remember the whole thing. They were going to hire him, and then things didn't go the way that it was supposed to go. He's got 13 commits up at Rutgers. I mean, that's like Tony Soprano's school. This guy is recruiting at a top 10 level in June at Tony Soprano's school. Take that, Tennessee fans. How's that working out for you? You guys are down there with Josh Heupel and, trying to be UCF North. Get your McDonald's bags ready, ladies and gentlemen. Baylor's at 12. Mississippi State is at 14 with 14 3-star recruits. They're going to balance out when it comes to that. Alabama's at 15. What? Trust me, Alabama will finish inside the top 10. That's just the way that it happens. Kentucky, Big Blue at number 16. They've got 4 4-star guys and 6 3-star players. Oklahoma at 17. Oklahoma State at 18. Here's the other interesting one, though. The old yes, sir man, Sam Pittman down at Arkansas. 11 recruits, 5 of them 4 stars, 6 of them 3 stars. He is currently in 20th place right now as far as the recruiting rankings go for the 247 Sports Composite. So I give you these numbers. After South Carolina, you got Florida at 23, Mizzou at 26, Va-Tech at 27, NC State at 29, North Carolina at 32. And we can go from there. Vanderbilt's at 40, Virginia's at 43, right on down the line. By the way, I was looking. Tennessee is at 49. 49. What? Wow, Rob. 49. How does that happen? I thought that Josh Heupel was going to be like this recruiting machine. I mean, they did get their punter to transfer. I mean, he decided it was better to kick at Memphis than it was at Tennessee. Oh, I don't know why I'm picking at Tennessee today. Anyway, we'll take your calls on the recruiting stuff at 803-978-1832. Do you agree with Wes Bryant from the ACC Digital Network that the number 2 team in the ACC is the Miami Hurricanes? They're an interesting fix, though. I say fix, but an interesting team because the way that they've tried to rebuild is through the transfer portal. They've got Coach Diaz down there hit that portal hard. Of course, getting De'Aaron King and all these other players to come in. And De'Aaron King is, he's listed at 5'9". Okay. And he went out and set the world on fire last year before tearing his ACL. But are they in a better position than North Carolina right now? If you look at the Coastal Division, I think it's going to come down to those two. After that, I think it's kind of a drop-off. I really do. We'll have to see how that works out. Blake says he thinks Notre Dame football will join the ACC in 2023. The whole thing with Notre Dame, and you know what? I'm not mocking the ACC for this, but they had a chance last season to hold Notre Dame's feet to the fire and make them join the conference. They're already in the conference for every other sport but football. Could you be any more looking like you're just doing a money grab than what Notre Dame is doing? Now, adding Notre Dame to the mix on the football front, remember back when we had expansion and joining Florida State into the conference, it was going to be, Vatek, who was really good outside of the ACC. Boston College was always a solid team. And then you had Miami get into the mix. They put Miami in the Coastal. So in theory, you could have an ACC championship game every year where it's Miami and Florida State. We've never had that in the ACC championship game. Never had it. So the people that think that Notre Dame is just going to roll in and be what they are, it shows from the past that if you join, it's almost like your football tradition kind of goes down a little bit. Miami's had one or two good teams since they've joined the conference? Maybe. Virginia Tech's had a couple of good teams, but not anything that's going to set the world on fire. The ACC has the potential, though, if all those teams can get back to where they were, which they're going to beat up on each other, but you could have a heck of a football conference there if Florida State can come back, and those are big ifs. But the idea of Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and Notre Dame, and even Virginia Tech, that's pretty solid to build around. But not every team can go 12-0 either. So, but you could have some interesting stuff there. Jerome says he thinks Notre Dame has a tough schedule. Yeah, I agree for this year. North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Cincinnati, and Wisconsin. The problem, though, is that they have a lot of games that I think they play and no disrespect to the Naval Academy, they play Navy every year. And they have a couple of other games that you're just kind of they play Stanford every year, and Stanford hasn't really been that great either. Southern Cal, that's another game that's on the list too. We'll have to see how that works out, but Notre Dame, possibly, if they could join the ACC, that could be some interesting stuff there. All right, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call. If you'd like to join us here on The Rundown, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Blake says it would be cool to see on NBC. I don't know if, and obviously I don't go behind closed doors, but is NBC going to keep paying what they're paying for Notre Dame? I don't know how that contract works. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how that works, but I don't know. It could get to a point where they don't pay that big of a or just step out of it altogether. But that's been kind of a tradition forever. We'll have to see if that continues or not. We got some other stuff we're going to get into this afternoon here on The Rundown. We talked a little bit about the Hawks earlier. Are they the team of destiny? Do the Suns have to win tonight, or is it uh-oh? And we've also got a couple other little things we're going to get into when we come back. Don't forget, I'm off today. Not off today. My brain's off today, apparently. I'm off tomorrow and Friday as well as Monday. Next Rundown show will be on Tuesday of next week as we get closer and closer to football season. Looking forward to getting team previews and everything else rolling along here on The Rundown. Buddy says if Notre Dame joins, they'll have to conform to ACC scheduling. It'll never happen. That's a valid point too. But so sometimes things change. And I think with the college football playoff, you can make an argument that maybe Notre Dame doesn't want to be the exception anymore. We'll have to see how that works. I don't know. Those are in the smoke-filled rooms, I have to figure that out. All right, more of The Rundown. We come back. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. Jackpot and I do a show tonight at 9:30. 9:30 Eastern time. Yeah, they'll have 8 ACC games. The question becomes, if they have the 8 ACC games, who would be the 4 that they would schedule out of conference? You think it would be Southern Cal, Stanford? I don't know. We'll have to see.
It's time to let Carolina Specialty Fitness bring the gym to you. Call 803-407-4114 or visit their showroom on Columbiana Drive. That's 803-407-4114 and Columbiana Drive in Irmo.
Let me grab my stuff. I'll be right back. Hold on. Oh, I finally got my notes. There you go. Wouldn't it be cool if they had I don't know. That would be interesting to see how Notre Dame does that. Man, I got to go to Charleston tomorrow and Friday to work, and it's like, ugh. Got to work a concert? Ugh. What a mess. All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. There was an interesting conversation on ESPN about which team could put 2 teams in the college football playoff this year. Now, the average person's going to say the SEC, which, you know, you can make an argument if Georgia wins their game against Clemson at the start of the season, that they roll through, even if they lose to Alabama, because let's be honest, the rest of their schedule after the Clemson game is hot dog water awful. It's pretty much, look at their schedule. No disrespect to the teams that are there, but is there anybody on that schedule that makes you think, oh, wow, this is going to be tough? Playing Florida at a neutral site, whee! That's the toughest thing ever. Okay? But after that game, which is the biggest game of the year for the Georgia Bulldogs, same way as with Clemson too, their biggest game of the year is game 1. I fully expect whoever wins that game on September the 4th will go undefeated the rest of the way. I think the wheels could come off for some teams, for the team that loses and if their coach can't keep them squared away. But with that knowledge, I think the SEC will get 2 teams if Georgia wins over Clemson in game 1. Simple as that. Now, as far as another team that has the capability, or another conference that has the capability of getting a couple in there, you could go with Iowa State and the Big 12. Oklahoma and Iowa State. You can make an argument there for that. Now, I know the Big 10 folks, they're going to come at you with Penn State. They're going to come at you with Ohio State. Of the 3 conferences, I think that would be number 3 as far as my pick there. I would go with, I think it's easier for Iowa State and Oklahoma to get there than it would be for the SEC to have two, because everything hinges on that matchup on September the 4th with Clemson and Georgia. Just my opinion. But of course, you're welcome to join us. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Which conference has the best chance? Now, if you're going to call up and be an SEC apologist, I'm fine with that, but at least tell me why. Is it because you are completely into the mix saying, hey, I think that Georgia is a lot better than Clemson? And you know what? That's something that's possible that could be there. You know, Clemson has holes with their team. They really do. Replacing some guys on the offensive line, replacing Trevor Lawrence. I know that DJ Uiagalelei is supposed to be great, but we talk about what's on the field now, what you know. Replacing Travis Etienne, the ultimate Swiss Army knife. 2 first-round picks you're replacing on that offense. It's a big deal. Amari Rodgers is gone too. Just saying, all those guys out, the Clemson offense is going to be different. And with that, at the beginning of the season, you don't get a game to tinker. You don't get to play, insert your in-state school here. You don't get to do that. You're playing a Georgia team that has a ton of talent. So with that, you can make an argument that Georgia, hey, they're a team that could win that game. And then Clemson could play better the rest of the season. Just saying. That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is that Clemson has a ton of guys that have been seasoning. Lynn J. Dixon's going to pick up where Travis Etienne left off. The offensive line will figure it out, and that defense is going to keep them legit against that Georgia offense, which, by the way, finished, 6th in the SEC last year, just ahead of Mizzou. Just ahead of Mizzou. You could go with both. You really could. But the idea of, I think if Clemson beats Georgia, I don't see 2 SEC teams in the college football playoff. I would lean towards, if there's going to be a 2-team conference, it would probably be Iowa State and Oklahoma from the Big 12. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Lawrence, Jerome says, did Lawrence get paid in bags? Come on now, Jerome. We're not gonna mock Tennessee all day. Come on, man. Come on, man. Blake says you can't leave out an SEC West team that had only 1 loss to Alabama, though. They already did that last year with Texas A&M. Tell me why I can't do it again. Texas A&M lost 1 game to Alabama, and we were left out. Seems like you could do that pretty easily. And by the way, that's the way that it should be. If you don't win your division, you don't belong in the college football playoff. How can you be the national champion if you can't win your division? Why am I the only one that thinks that way? Under that logic, the conference championships mean nothing. They don't mean anything. They don't mean anything. Blake also says nobody in the ACC would argue having their road games at Notre Dame on NBC. I don't know how the broadcast stuff's going to work for that, but it should be interesting if Notre Dame joins in 2023. All right, so we have that on the horizon there. Also, Tommy Tuberville's taking a beating on Twitter because of the name, image, and likeness stuff. He's now Senator Tommy Tuberville. A former big-time football coach told Stephen Dennis, who is a reporter, last week he's wary of the impacts from paying players and even the names, image, and likeness issue. He worries players might be enticed to go to bigger schools where they can make more money and involving agents and lawyers. So Tommy Tuberville's getting beat senseless online about that. Here's my favorite. Tuberville essentially invented the coaching buyout in college. Auburn paid him $5 million not to coach. Cincinnati paid him $2 million not to coach. So, yeah, he made a ton of money to not coach. When that happens, And you're talking about some players that maybe getting some money off of if you sell their likeness on the back of a jersey. Yeah, that's not good too. It's not good at all. If you're a former coach that says that, it's kind of Jerome was talking about that earlier with Dabo Sweeney talking about, hey, I don't know, I'm going to have to go somewhere else or whatever. Yeah, well, Coach Sweeney's going to have to deal with that. That's just something that's out there. And the teams that grasp the name, image, and likeness thing the best, those are going to be the teams that get the recruits. Just the way that it is. All right, so Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk joins us next. He is the czar of Clemson sports.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
He is a noted Lakers apologist. Please call and tell him that LeBron James is ruining his franchise. He would love to hear that. You could tweet at him at Clemson Sports. He also likes to sing show tunes. We've talked about that before. He can carry tunes from everything from Oklahoma to Rent. Feel free to call him and or call him, text him. He's got a text line. Listen to his show. But it's best to tweet at him. Let him know LeBron James killed his team, and the Lakers are hot dog water team right now. The Suns beat them. He loves to hear that kind of thing. He also talks Clemson sports and sports from around the country every afternoon right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400 on every day from 4 to 6. Check out his podcast and his website, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Podcast of this show will be up at 5 o'clock today. Be sure to check that out. As I said, I'm off tomorrow and Friday. I'll be off on Monday as well. I hope everyone has a great 4th of July. My favorite 4th of July fact, Benjamin Franklin wanted our national bird to be a turkey. That's true. Not the bald eagle. He wanted it to be a turkey. There you go. Share that with your friends on July 4th. Thanks for joining the show today. I hope you have a great July 4th weekend. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. We will see you on Tuesday. I think you're right about that, RR. We'll have to see how that goes. I don't know who they would get. Who they should get is West Virginia. That's who they should get. West Virginia in the Big 12 doesn't make any sense. All right, new Rob and Jackpot show tonight, 9:30. Hope to see you guys then, all right? Talk to you later.